We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, April 16th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and welcome to a brand new episode of News Generation. Joining us today is Park Ki-un.
Thank you for having.
Thank you for joining. And Niall Song.
Hello, good morning.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. So we're going to begin our show today with our keyword news. Our keyword for this Wednesday is takeout. Starting this Monday, South Korea's top food delivery app Baemin began charging a 6.8% commission on takeout orders made through its platform. To break it down, if the customer places a 20,000 Korean won order, roughly $14, the business will now be charged around 1,500 won, or roughly $1, including value-added tax. Baemin says it's not alone, pointing to competitors like Coupang Eats, which already charge similar fees. But that really hasn't calmed the backlash, because some restaurant owners are now pushing back, even going as far as to refuse takeout orders made through the app. So Niall, can you walk us through what really triggered this uproar from businesses registered on the platform?
I mean, there's definitely the sense of broken trust, maybe even feeling like they're tricked, because this fee came just weeks after this win-win policy lowering delivery fees. And so people are raising doubts about the platform's intentions.
So they're kind of feeling betrayed, businesses.
Exactly.
And this new fee isn't just rattling business owners, it's also concerning customers too. So Ki-un, could you explain how this could potentially impact the prices we actually pay?
Sure. I think we all need to understand that everything is interconnected, and at the end of the food chain come the customers, like people like us. And if small business owners boycott Baemin pickup orders, Baemin may respond by imposing a portion of the charge on customers, like 50-50, leading them to end up paying more for their food. And we have to know, like, we're already living in hard times with high inflation, and seeing food prices go up, even when you actually make the effort of going to the restaurant to pick it up, will only push away the customers opting for more affordable options. And in turn, obviously, it affect big medium platforms like Baemin, and in terms of their profit margins and sales.
Because price hikes is nothing we want, both in terms of the business owners and also the consumers.
Of course.
All right, so hope Baemin and business owners navigate through this situation wisely. And that was our keyword news for this Wednesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Wednesday means we're diving into the latest lifestyle trends among younger generations. Here's more on what we're going to discuss today. They say silence is golden, and it seems more and more young people are taking that to heart and even to their wallets. Believe it or not, there's a growing trend in Korea where people are actually paying to experience silence. Why would someone spend money on something as simple as a moment of quiet? We're gonna find out today. So this is a really interesting concept, buying silence. So Ki-un, what does this really mean? And could you give us some examples that really show this trend?
Sure. So there's a growing trend of people paying to enjoy silence, which is quite interesting.
Right.
So for example, a cafe in Seoul dubbed a silence cafe prohibits all conversation. The customers place orders using pencils and sticky notes, and even whispering is not allowed. So the only time you're actually allowed to speak is when you place an order or actually pay. And the price of staying at one of these silent cafes would be around 10,000 Korean won, or around $7 for a cup of drip coffee and sitting at a table for 2 hours. But if you want to stay longer, you have to pay an extra fee. And another restaurant enforces a strict no talking policy and removes guests, the customers, without a refund if they actually break the rule, the silent rule. Despite these restrictions, these places are becoming very popular enough that people are actually willing to wait in line to actually go to these silent restaurants where you're not allowed to speak at all, but just eat.
That is
and
very
listen to other people eat.
Listen to other people eat. I mean, these kind of stores seem very difficult for a talkative person like me, but Niall, could you also walk us through some other examples as well?
Same. It's quite difficult for me as well. There's also silent bars, and unlike your typical noisy bars where you're supposed to converse with people, the no-talking bars are popping up not only in Seoul, but in other regions as well. So Ki-hoon mentioned that in these cafes, they take orders and they communicate via writing on sticky notes. In these bars, they have notebooks where you can write your thoughts or whatever you need to communicate. And I think adding on to the trend of silent things, silent shopping is trending. I quite like this idea.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, some shops are now catering towards solo shoppers who want to kind of avoid that awkward conversation of please leave me alone when I'm shopping. So when you need help, you can go up to them and ask for help.
Right, so it's not just silent cafes or restaurants, also silent shopping, silent bars as well. And what's really fascinating is that people are heading out and even paying for silence in a world where you could just stay in your room to enjoy some peace and quiet. So I want to ask you, what's driving this shift towards silence consumption?
So this shift reflects the mindset of a generation that wants to be alone, but not completely alone.
Is that even possible?
I think it is now. So while communication is a fundamental human instinct, many people worn out by today's hyper-connected world, where even a moment of stillness feels rare, are now seeking more quiet, low-stimulation environments. The rise of individualism also and the growing number of single-person households are also contributing factors behind this movement. So young people are now being more selective and specific with what exactly they want and don't want. And businesses have caught on this trend to meet their needs. For now, I think it's a very niche market, but we can clearly see that the millennials and the Gen Zs and even Gen Alphas, they know exactly what they want. And they're willing to pay for what they really, really want deep down inside. And like for, I guess, the older generation, they might think, hey, silence? Just stay at home, stay in your room, without anything turned on. But for the younger generation, it's a different kind of satisfaction where they want to be kind of among people.
Together, but
in silence.
Yeah, in silence.
And obviously there are businesses catered for that, so this is a new trend.
Then Niall, as part of the younger generation, can you also relate to what Ki-hoon just mentioned?
I want to just say this in defense of those people to the question of why don't you just stay home. Home is not necessarily an ideal place to focus, even if you want to work or if you want to have some thought process.
There are so many distractions,
Yeah,
right?
there's too many familiar objects. Sometimes you do need a little bit of that unfamiliarity to process things or get some work done. But I think Kyun really pointed that out well. With the younger generation, they really know what they want, and it's human instinct to be near other people, but it does take a lot of emotional and social energy to have to interact or even just hear that. So I guess they're really opting not to do that, and businesses are catching on to this. And to be honest, everything is very overstimulating, especially after Corona. So I think this is definitely the new trend.
So they want to be included, but at the same time, they want some me time as well. All right, so we also asked our viewers to share the moments in life when they crave silence the most, and here's what 3 of them had to say. Our first comment for this Wednesday is by Never Ever X7C. I need total silence when I want to structure the jumbled thoughts in my head, as I'm a serious procrastinator because outside distractions are very overwhelming in everyday life. Blue Rain YT11, for me, it's in the morning when I wake up. I just don't want any human interaction or noise. Then also in the evening after a long day of work or when I find myself emotionally vulnerable. IceBeam23860 says, I usually find myself wanting to be in complete silence when I want to recover mentally and emotionally from the day. As an MBTI INFJ type, this is a must. So alongside this silent consumption, we're also seeing more young people leaning into so-called relatively quieter hobbies. So Kyun, could you also give us some examples on that as well?
Sure. Many members of the MZ generation who have grown up on fast-paced and stimulating content are now actually turning over to slower, less efficient anti-dopamine activities. Knitting, or 뜨개질 in Korean, is one such trend. In a world where everything is automated, handcrafting a piece of clothing stitch by stitch may seem inefficient, but for the MZ generation right now, it's a form of healing. And knitting cafes and small hobby groups have been on the rise, and consumer data shows that spending related to knitting cafes increased by a whopping 105%
Wow.
in 2024 compared to the same period the previous year. Look, I honestly I haven't knitted before. I
Really?
remember back in like primary school where we have to do it in class for like art class, but I think this definitely will help. And there are other activities like
Like
I
what?
think 바둑 go,
Oh, I
where like
see.
it helps you really just focus on one thing only.
We can call that Korean chess, maybe?
Korean chess. Oh, I think it's called Go in English. I've seen many students do that as well to really help them kind of just focus on just one thing only.
You can
to-
forget about other things
exactly.
in your life, right?
That's one option as well.
So knitting and Go became. Then Niall, is this craze for stillness and quiet also something we're seeing globally, not in Korea?
Yeah, it seems like this trend is not just limited to Korea. Similar trends are emerging worldwide, with Gen Z's hobbies becoming increasingly what we call elderly-like. Maybe something that could have been mocked a decade ago, saying, "Are you a grandma? Are you the elderly? Why are you doing this?" Things like soft hiking. This is a new term, soft hiking.
Soft hiking.
Yeah, so I mean, it is what it sounds like. You
have
are
to walk, like,
hiking
softly?
softly,
Like tiptoe,
not
right?
disturbing. No, it's slow-paced and low-effort hiking, and enjoying the nature a little more than necessarily competing to get to the top. And so it's not really about the speed or the intensity, but rather more relaxation. I don't know. I feel like this is like trekking, but it's branded in a new way by the younger generation. And calm is the new cool, and the slower, more mindful approach to leisure and is becoming more and more popular amongst the younger generation.
Calm does seem to be the new cool after looking at all of these examples. Then on a personal note, would you say that this quiet, calm lifestyle suits you? What would you say?
Yeah, I actually like the slow and silent lifestyle. I really like the analog kind of style. I prefer analog over like digital things. For example, when I go shopping, I like to go offline shopping. Actually go to the shop, touch it, see it for myself, try it on before actually making my purchase. Whereas not just young people, but even the elderly, they do a lot of online shopping because it's super easy, quick,
Right.
efficient,
Convenient.
and convenient as well. And another way of enjoying my own style of science would be going for a walk in my neighborhood without my smartphone. Now, this is a big thing.
Yeah, it is.
If you've actually gone around people like exercising, even in the gym, they all have their smartphones in their hand.
Right.
So after one set, it's like, oh, it's my time to scroll through.
Dopamine reward.
Dopamine reward, something like that. And I found that very interesting because I actually I try not to take my phone into the gym as well, leave it in my locker because, look, it's so easy to get distracted.
Right.
And you see so many people just glued to their phones. I'm kind of confused, like, are they here to work out or just to like search through, like do online shopping? But they're doing both at the same time, which can be a good thing, but at the same time, I'm not quite sure like why they're actually there, the real purpose,
Like efficiency-wise?
efficiency-wise.
What would you say, Niall?
I think many people, especially if you've seen News Gen from the beginning, might find this surprising about me because I love parties, I love people, I love to talk. But one of the reasons I moved out of Seoul into the Gyeonggi area is because of the slower and the quieter atmosphere.
Really?
Not to mention the cheaper housing. But I grew up very close to nature, and there's really nothing like the vast openness after a day of partying.
All right, so we've heard from our panelists. To broaden our perspective even more, after the break, we'll connect with a young person from the United States to hear more about today's topic. Stay with us.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Welcome back. We're excited to welcome American Gen Z, Jotsia Zine, to the show. Welcome back to the show, Jotsia.
Hi, happy to be here.
Great to have you. So, Jotsia, what kinds of calm or still activities are popular, would you say, among young people in the United States?
Actually, like you guys mentioned earlier, I think that knitting and crocheting has been one that I've seen a lot because I think a lot of people in my generation really like stuffed animals, and getting to make them themselves based on like characters or symbols that they like is something that people really enjoy. I've also been gifted bracelets and necklaces from a lot of my friends who have recently gotten into jewelry making. So they make jewelry from anything from clay to beads to metal charms, just really accessorized like that. And I've heard of a lot of people getting into like sewing and fashion. So a lot of people that I know have completely like designed their own wardrobes, and then a lot of people post about it on social media after they finish crafting. So it's kind of become like a community activity as well. And then one of the more popular ones that is within like the video game community is cozy games. And so we don't really expect video games to be something that's like a relaxing activity usually, but a lot of people have gotten into like games that are based on like farming or organizing, like Animal Crossing or A Little to the Left. And these games kind of take you out of real life because you can just kind of listen to the cozy music and, organize something in your game. I personally enjoy painting as a silent activity. So on the rare occasions that I actually have like a free day, I'll take the time to sit down and paint a portrait of someone in my life. So painting actually used to really stress me out because I'd be afraid of like making mistakes in my art. But nowadays, because it requires so much intense focus, it actually has become very therapeutic to me. So I overthink a lot because of school and my social life and work. And so the fact that I sit down to work on a painting for 4 to 7 hours and I do it in one sitting, it really like helps me to take my mind off all those things. And then there's the added bonus of getting to gift it to the person I've painted afterwards. So similarly to me, I think that a lot of people in my generation do focus a lot on productivity a lot of the times. And so these kind of crafty activities kind of help us to take our minds off of our busy schedules and everyday stressors. Even though a lot of people I know have found a way to make it both therapeutic and productive at the same time by like taking commissions or selling the things that they make. But a lot of the activities are still very crafty and like hands-on, so that we're forced to focus on those things aside from all of the other activities in our lives.
Are you also seeing a similar trend of people actually paying for silence or actively seeking quiet spaces?
Yeah, so I haven't personally been to any of the actual fully silent cafes that you mentioned, but I'm not that surprised by it because I've definitely seen the trend of paying for silence in Korea through mainly cafes. I think Korea already had the established culture of going to cafes to do homework or be productive in general. And when you go there, you kind of have to pay an entrance fee, which is equivalent to like a coffee or a dessert anyways. So I've also participated in this culture a bit since being here. And I go to like comic book cafes a lot of the times. So I don't actually read the comics, but I'll go there just to buy a little silent cubby and pay for it by the hour. So it's really no different than being in my dorm, I guess, especially since I live in a single. But for some reason, just being out in a public space and feeling like I'm getting an adventure and getting a change of scenery, while also being able to just relax and feel the same kind of silence and comfort that I do at home, makes me feel like it's worth paying for. So I also know that a lot of students at my school have been using the relaxation spaces on campus to study and just be, rather than just going to the library or other study rooms. And I think like it's interesting since those places have usually been known for students going to sleep and take naps and just relax before this. But more recently, students go there to actually like study and do other things. And I think it's because we're all just craving that kind of silent, cozy space while being in a community, and being able to feel that coziness where we can still work, craft, or do whatever we choose.
Lastly, do you think this is actually this desire for peace and solitude that we have right now? Is it just a phase, or do you see this going long term?
Oh yeah, I definitely don't think it's just a phase, especially since I don't see like technology or the current trends of wanting to be productive going away either. So I think considering how technology is integrated into every part of our lives now and we're constantly reachable, people are just starting to get overwhelmed. And so these silent activities are the ways that people are choosing to prioritize their mental health and sense of self over the constant connectedness through like social media or media trends. So rather than like having to muster up the willpower to actually put down our phones ourselves, I think people are, choosing these crafts that they actually enjoy, because once you get started, like for me, once I start painting, I don't even think about picking up my phone or checking my schedule or my notifications. So I think it's really helpful to kind of have that alternative lifestyle, because in our normal lives, no matter what you're doing, your phone is still there. It still might buzz and you're still going to be taken out of whatever activity you're doing in the moment. So I think just for the sake of preventing widespread burnout, I don't think that this trend is going to go away anytime soon. And I think that this is a very necessary thing for people to be able to find that solitude and comfort in themselves.
Jotsia, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right, so based on what we discussed today and hearing from our guests, it seems like many of us are looking for an off switch in life, a break from the noise and the hustle. So whether it's work stress, school deadlines and exams, or social burnout, sometimes what we really need is a moment to just breathe. So wrapping up, what would you personally recommend to our viewers who are looking to find that stillness or emotional reset?
As simple as it may sound, sleep can be the best cure. Like resting well is so important that many young people actually become very oblivious or ignore it because they're like, oh, I slept, that's it. But knowing how to actually rest well, sleep well can really determine how you feel the next day, both in a positive or even a negative way. And I've put so much emphasis on how I sleep. Like, is it cozy? Am I relaxed? Have I taken a warm shower? Is it completely silent? Because there's so much noise outside, even during nighttime. So creating that, it can all start from your bedroom, like creating that calm, like peaceful atmosphere when you go to bed can really affect how you feel the next day or like throughout the week. So knowing how to sleep well, rest well could be my kind of remedy to feel free from all the distractions and stress in our everyday lives.
No wonder there's a saying that goes, a good amount of quality sleep is like a cure for everything.
It is. Yeah.
What do you suggest, Niall?
I think after our interviewee said, I want to confess that I actually crochet as well. Maybe it doesn't match my image, but I think it's not necessarily about the result for me, but it's the process of just knitting continuously without thinking much about something. And I think having that thing to do to lay down your phone is so important in this next generation to come.
All right, hope our discussion today helps you find your inner peace. And that's all we have for today, but NewsGen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Park Hyun.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, and Niall Song.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, and to our viewers, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow on Thursday. We are
News Generation.